Welcome to the Easy Project. It's Eddie. There's no Zeb today. Happy wife, happy life. Happy birthday to Nikki. But we've got a special guest on. One of my boys, man. Great fella. Israel Folau. What's up, brother?
What's up, bro? Thanks for having me on.
Nah, man. So good to have you, man. We've been chasing you for the last the last month. But I'm honestly grateful to have you, man.
Nah, thanks, bro. I finally just sort of come out publicly and started, just talking and sharing a bit of our story. So when you reached out, bro, I was more than happy to come on and have a chat.
We've got one of your better brothers coming in before you.
It's all right. I'll just play it later.
Hey, usually when we start on our easy chats, easy conversations, we want to throw you some flowers. All right, just a little bit about Izzy, if it's wrong.
Bro. Please. Thanks.
Israel Folau.
That's the one.
Was born in Minto, New South Wales, remember? Australia, and grew up in a close-knit family of 6. He's a devoted husband to his wife, Maria, and a proud father of 2 beautiful children. Now, his sporting career is remarkable for its diversity and success across different codes. Now, he played over 100 games in the NRL, representing Queensland and Australia, and made history as one of the youngest players to ever don the Australian jersey, setting a record for the most tries on debut. Now, seeking new challenges, he transitioned to the AFL, where he played for the Greater Western Sydney Giants for a couple of years. He later returned to rugby, joining the New South Wales Waratahs and Rugby Union, where he became the record holder for the most tries in Super Rugby. Now, his international career saw him representing Australia and Tonga in the highest stages. Now, he's currently playing rugby union in Japan, but beyond the field, he is a passionate advocate for the Tongan community, always finding ways to give back. His faith in Jesus has been the cornerstone of his life, guiding him to excel at the highest levels and be a voice for his community. He is not only an outstanding athlete, but also a loving son, brother, father, and husband. My man, Israel Folau.
Wow.
You like that, bro?
Oh, bro, thanks for the intro. I don't think I've had an intro like that, so
Hey.
I feel pretty special.
Hey, if you want to take me to Japan, bro, I'll come with you to Japan.
Nah, thanks for that, bro. That's, I guess it's nice to hear that, and really encouraged to sort of sit back and hear those words from someone else.
No, look, I'm honestly grateful to have you on the potty. How you been, man? How's the family? Obviously, you come from Japan to Australia.
Yeah, but it been good. Busy with the family. I've got two young kids, and they keep us quite busy. But we live 2 different lifestyles. Being in Japan for 9 months of the year. Yeah. And then we come home, obviously in the off season, and spend that time here with the family. So the kids are quite good at adapting well, to different lifestyles. And my wife does a great job in keeping the house together. While I can go and focus on training and making sure that I'm giving my 100% with rugby.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Hey, we'll dive deep now. Give us a rundown about your childhood.
Yeah, look, I look back at my childhood. It was a great one. Now I really enjoyed that. Obviously born in Sydney, as you mentioned.
Sea-town.
Good old Campbelltown. There's a rough place out there. I look back now. I didn't know any different. I'm one of 6. I've got 4 brothers and 1 sister. Yeah. And my parents did the best that they could, My dad, both my mum and dad worked really hard. My dad obviously worked quite hard to provide for the family. Yeah. And he was working a couple of jobs as well. But being so young and growing up, you don't know that stuff, You don't know the struggle. You don't realise, the responsibility that they have to carry and take. But I look back now and I'm really grateful for the work and the foundation that they set, in order for us to be able to have an opportunity like myself and all my brothers to excel and succeed in whatever we wanted to do. So, my childhood was good. It was humbling, and even now to the point of where I am now, I'll never forget, how I grew up and where I come from, because I think it's a good place to really, I guess, keep you balanced, in life and just make sure that you're steady and just keeps you humble for me, and that's a good place to be.
Yeah, 100%. With mum and dad, did they come from Tonga straight to Australia and you had the kids, or was it?
Yeah, so they both my parents migrated from Tonga to Sydney in their mid-20s.
Wow.
And they met each other in Sydney. So
yeah,
it's they were coming for the same thing, like as trying to get a better life and provide a better opportunity for their family. And so they met in Sydney and got married, and then all of us kids were born both in Sydney and Brisbane. Johnny, my younger brother, and my sister were the only ones born in Brisbane. So. But I'm still a true Queenslander.
That's awesome, man. Obviously, growing up, because I remember when I think your dad, because he's a pastor, is that right?
Yeah.
I think there was a few times he came down to Mascot, because that's where I grew up.
Yeah.
And I think I remember seeing you there when we were younger at the time.
Yeah. Well, we actually lived in Mascot for a big chunk of our lives. I obviously was young at that time, but my two older brothers can remember, that childhood. They went to school in Mascot, so they got a lot of memories there. I can't remember anything, obviously being so young. But Mascot, my parents talk about it a lot because they worked around that area. My two older brothers went to school there, so I think it's a bit of a special place for them, particularly coming into Australia quite early.
Yeah, because there was a massive Tongan community where I grew up. In that area, and it was Tongan's area. There was no Samoans. There was the only Samoan there. So I was eating Tongan food, man. I was getting invited to the Sunday roast, the feed. But it was a good time there, good memories there.
Yeah.
Did you guys play? Did you have a sporting background while growing up as your older brothers? Were they playing back then, or was it?
I actually started quite late. For a young kid, you look at young kids now, they start playing sport or footy at like the age of 5 or 6, I didn't start playing till about 10. But I grew up watching my older brothers playing sport, and I watch my son now. My son's just turned 4, and he plays with dirt and trucks and that. And like I look back at my childhood, I used to do the same thing, like play with dirt. I was just fascinated with like going out and trying to find those little lizards and that geckos and that, it sounds you can laugh about it now, but it was like sport didn't really interest me at the time. It wasn't until when I was at primary school, my mates and that tried all different sports, and I was the same. So when I was about 10 years old, I tried playing soccer, basketball, just all the different sports that you did. And when my old man enrolled me into my first club, which was Minto Cobras. I loved it. I just fell in love with footy. But before then, sports was something I watched, but wasn't really I didn't discover it as a passion or anything like that. From then, I fell in love with the game from about the age of 10. But it's quite young for what the normal age is, what kids start now. Yeah.
Kids are starting at the age of 3, man. Man, it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. It's I think it's a good thing, Kids, playing sport and being active. I think there's something about playing in a team sport and team environment teaches you great principles around, obviously, teamwork and working with one another. So that's something that I think is good for young kids to learn at an early age.
Yeah. What was mum and dad like? Coaches, were they coaches or were they strict? Because I know I know my dad was, but he was hard as nails.
Mate, my old man still thinks he's a coach now.
They all do, bro.
I've been playing for 17 years and he's still trying to coach me.
Yeah.
But I think that's just the love and the passion that your parents have for you. I don't think that'll ever change. And I don't. To be honest, I don't want that to change.
Yeah.
My mum was always a soft one, so she would always. Like what most mothers say, good game, son, even though you probably didn't play that well, but she was the one to always comfort you on that. But my old man was a hard man, he was a hard mucker, and I'm glad he was, because it was a trait that I picked up quite early when I knew I wanted to be a professional footy player.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he was always hard on me. You know, even when I played well, he would say, "Oh, you played good, but you still need to do X, Y, and Z." You know?
Yeah, 100%.
And so that was something he was quite hard on, and I learnt that from a young age.
I remember we crossed paths in Wagga.
Yeah.
When you were playing for the Queensland schoolboys.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, bro, who's this big giant?
Big lanky guy on the wing.
Oh, man. And I think that was the first time I ever come across you.
Yeah.
We didn't say hello because we were against it. I was in New South Wales and you were Queensland at the time.
Oh, we had
But how was that transition? So when mum and dad, did they move over to Brisbane for an opportunity for work, or was it?
Yeah, well, so we moved over to Brisbane for work. It was purely just that. But before then, I went to Westfield Sports High in Sydney.
That's right. Yeah.
So I went there for a couple of years, and then we moved as a family to Brisbane because of obviously work opportunity for my parents. So when we did that, I obviously continued playing footy over there, and hence why I got into playing representing for Queensland. And it was a good pathway. It was a good journey. I look back at that time now, and I think there was so much talent in New South Wales that I think I might have maybe missed out behind all those good players that were coming through. And so I think going to Queensland, the rugby there was quite good, but I think talent-wise there was a bit more opportunity. So I think for me, sort of projected me to a position where I was seen, I guess, because being going to Westfields, I was, we were
stacked, eh?
We had Hainsey, we had Inu, all these guys were, unbelievable players to go on and play first grade and, at the highest level. So I think it was a blessing in disguise, the move to Queensland, just sort of elevated, I guess, the opportunity to go succeed.
Yeah, because you done really, really well at that young age, man. Now we're going to Melbourne, so you signed a contract with Melbourne. Was it for 2 years?
Yeah, so I signed initially for 2 years.
Yeah.
But I got my first contract in grade 11 when I was still in school. So I look back now and I got given the opportunity to actually take part in a NRL trial game when I was grade 12, so still in school, and that was a big deal for me.
100%.
I remember taking part in that game. I think we might have played Parramatta, I think, in that trial game. But I was just, I was looking around the change room before the game, and I'm still in school, so I idolised all those guys that I ended up playing with, and those guys are like Billy Slater, Greg Inglis, and I'm just in awe, and I'm like, given this opportunity to go out there and play with these guys, it was something that was, I didn't think, I always believed in myself that I could play at the highest level, but I didn't think it was going to come that quick. So to get that opportunity quite early was, it was a blessing. And then obviously finished school in 2006 and then moved straight to Melbourne. And I initially signed 2 years with Melbourne. And that was the start of my professional career.
How was the preseason, man? Because I know Melbourne's, it's a different breed down there, man.
Oh man, it still gives me nightmares, eh? Of that wrestling sessions. You know what it's like, eh?
Man.
It's still to this day, people ask me, what's the hardest training you've done? Melbourne by far. They have the hardest preseason. So I think it's a big part of their culture. If you go down to Melbourne and you understand how Bellamy works and how that culture is built around hard work, it's, that's a big reason why they've been so successful for so long.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love about Melbourne, you play with a lot of, like I said, there's some goats down in Melbourne. They play the game like Inglis, Slater, Cooper Cronk, Cam Smith. You come in there and you think that there's some sort of ego, for their level of status, you would think there would be a bit of ego. Man, for a young kid coming into that system, one thing I learned off of those guys was that they treated everyone equal, and they were, no one was bigger than the team. Everyone was working together. I think
that's mad.
Yeah, Craig Bellamy had a big part to play in that, and those senior players just drove that culture. Yeah. And I think that's why they've been so successful.
Yeah. How was mum and dad to feel? Like obviously you were the first to make it out of the four brothers, eh?
Yeah.
The four boys. How was that? How was mum and dad's feeling?
Oh man, they were just. I remember my parents getting emotional, crying, and for anyone as a parent to see their kids succeed in what they're trying to do, it's obviously a happy moment for them. Yeah. And that's exactly how they felt. So for me, it was I was truly grateful that I got given the opportunity. But one thing that drove me during that those years before actually making my debut was seeing my parents work hard, and then I wanted to be the one that changed that cycle. Yeah. We lived in housing commission growing up, so I understood as I got older why we moved around so much. It was just we obviously didn't have the money to buy a property and be able to stay in one place. So that was a big reason why I wanted to obviously train hard and make it. To be the one in my family to change that whole cycle and give a better, I guess, lifestyle for my family.
Yeah. Because that was awesome, man. Like, I remember your debut, man, like no tomorrow. Because obviously, because we were similar age, you get to see guys that your age are debuting it. Yep. And I was like, man, good on him, man. And I remember that year, you had a freaking killer year, man. How was your first game, and how was the phone call to mum and dad to tell them that you were debuting?
Oh, man. I remember during the week, Bellamy called me into the office, and previous to that, a couple of weeks before that, we had obviously a couple of trial games, and some guys unfortunately got injured, and through that I got the opportunity to come in and play. But I didn't think it was going to come so early. So being so young, I was 17. We had a couple of other players in the squad that played the same positions, but that already had first grade experience. So I was thinking those guys would probably jump ahead of me.
Yeah.
So when I got called into the office by Bellamy, I thought I did something wrong. I was like, man, what am I getting called in for?
Yeah.
And then he obviously told me the good news that I was going to make my debut that week against the West Tigers. And so I didn't, like, when he told me, it didn't quite sink in. I was just like, oh, man, I was in awe, and obviously made the call to my parents that I was going to play, and they were just over the moon. The club flew them down to Melbourne, and it was just a week that it was just all that hard work and the goals that I set just paid off finally. Like, I knew that I was going to finally make my debut, and man, the nerves leading up to that game was like, oh man, I was just.
Who was it against?
Edge. It was against West Tigers, but I was my opposite winger was Daniela.
He's a beast too.
First game I had to play this guy, and he was a beast, bro. So, but just the nerves leading up to the game. I was so nervous, If I actually watched the game, not the whole game. I watched highlights of my debut probably about a month ago. Yeah. And I was like slipping over and falling over, I was just young and raw, and you can tell I was really nervous, but it was nice to get that first game out of the way with a win as well.
That's awesome, man. Do you know, so with obviously the lead up to your debut, did you have goals throughout the time? Obviously finishing school, being in the system. Yeah. Did you have goals to crack it? Was 2007, were you looking at 2007 going, I want to debut this year, or was it just kind of...
Yeah, that was definitely the goal, that I wanted to debut that year, coming out of school. I remember, I'll tell this story quite a few times actually, but I remember when I was 15 and we had this family meeting with, my parents. I was, just asking us as kids how we were all going and all that sort of stuff. And this one particular night, we had a night where we would share like our goals and stuff and what we wanted to achieve. And I remember at 15, I wrote it down on a piece of paper. Yeah. And I was real specific about like my goals and how I was going to achieve it. And I wrote 3 things down. One of the things I wrote, the first one I wrote was, I'm going to play NRL at the age of 17.
Wow.
And it was just, I look back now and I just think, it was just in my mind, I saw it before it actually happened.
Yeah.
And you can call it, I don't know, visualization or whatever you want to call it, But for a young kid at that time, I didn't realise. I just had a self-belief that I saw it already happening, and when I knew it was coming up, it was just a feeling about it. Okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
The second one I wrote was, I'm going to play Origin for Queensland.
Yeah.
And then the third one I wrote was, I'm going to play for Australia.
Wow.
And it was so, like I said, it was specific that I was going to play NRL at 17. I just believed it 100%. No one could tell me otherwise.
Yeah.
That like I couldn't make it. I didn't care about it. It was like you could tell me, but I knew like inside that I was going to do it at that time frame. So when I did get my debut, I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised because the goals I had set when I was 15, and I could see that, and I knew it was going to come. So, that year, that first year, I didn't know I was going to play every game, but I ended up playing every game, and I think
you scored like the most tries that year too.
maybe equal top try scorer with Matty Bowen.
Yeah.
So.
That's massive. And Mango's a beast too.
Yeah, he's a beast, bro. Like he was, man. I loved watching him play. One of the best fullbacks to play the game. But it was, it was just an honour to be part of a great team like Melbourne, and be in a system where I was able to learn so much.
Yeah. How was it being in the limelight? Because I think after that first year, but everyone was on you, man, like all the time, like, How did you go across with that?
I'm quite a private person, and I would say I'm an introvert. So, like, I didn't like the attention. I didn't like I would go to a function room with the team and that, and I would go straight to the corner. just stay there with the guys that I'm comfortable with. I wouldn't like mix and mingle. Yeah. Not because I didn't want to. It was just me being in my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And obviously from the media's point of view, they were, there was things coming out saying, "Oh, this guy is compared to that guy," and they were talking it up, I didn't read too much into it. I wasn't that type of person to really worry about that much, and I was pretty lucky that I had good support around me. Like my family really kept me level-headed, and didn't let that success get to my head. I think it helped a lot that I wasn't. Didn't like that tension, like I said earlier. So I would like kind of run away from it. Yeah, I would avoid it. So always been nice and open to having a chat with everyone. But in terms of the wanting to do media and that, it just wasn't my thing.
Bro, so you go on to play with Melbourne, then you go up to Brisbane. You got the opportunity to go to Brizzy, be closer to mum and dad. That would have been awesome to be close to home with the family.
It was unreal. Like I enjoyed my time in Melbourne. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had. But I was still homesick because I was in Melbourne on my own. And so, when I got the opportunity to come back and play for Brisbane, with such a big club, the Broncos are a huge club, So when I got given that opportunity, I jumped at it straight away. And it was purely, not only was it financially good, but my family was there. So that was the biggest thing to come back to Brisbane. So, that was a good experience as well. And playing with guys like, Lockyer, Hodges. Those guys were, I got to play with them in Origin, but then to come and play with them at club level was another different experience from playing at Melbourne.
Was there any differences between Melbourne and Brisbane at the time? Culture-wise?
I think culturally, down in Melbourne, you can sort of fly under the radar because AFL's so big. And so being a Storm player, you're not really noticed as much. So, that you can sort of get around in public and not doing anything bad or anything, but you can get away with some things, because everyone's watching AFL and everyone's always on, talking about AFL boys. But down in Brisbane, it's the opposite. It's like everyone knows who the Brisbane players are, So, and I think culturally as well, it was a little bit different to what I experienced in Melbourne. I think at the time, when I compare it, Brisbane was a little bit more, how do you say it, like more individualised, It wasn't, I felt at the time, wasn't team that was together, in a lot of things. But every team culture is different. You can't have the same thing. So, in saying that, those older guys that I played with, they still led in a way that was obviously positive and really wanting to give back to younger guys. I think there was so much going on in the background that when I was there was always a big expectation on Brisbane to do well, and 2009 and 10 were probably one of the bad years that the Broncos went in terms of playing. We didn't. I think it was 2009 or what, I can't remember which season, but we didn't actually make the finals, and it was the first.
Yeah, that was the first time.
Yeah, it was the first time in years, bro.
Yeah.
So that wasn't good. But I think pressure-wise, there's always pressure on Brisbane to do well, because they're such a big club and everyone's watching them.
Yeah. Bro, that's awesome. You did a few years there, and then you take on the next transition into AFL, bro. Like, what was going through your mind at the time? Was it just...
Oh, man.
Were you bored of rugby league, or was it...
You know what? At the
Because you succeeded really well in the league.
I actually didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave league. I felt like I was just coming into my prime and I was just getting warmed up. And I had a few arguments with my old man. At the time, I was quite young. I was still like maybe 21 or 22 when I was coming off contract with Brisbane. And at the time, I didn't want to go. And I had a few chats with my old man around wanting to stay. And he kept telling me, nah, it's a great opportunity from a financial point of view. And for the viewers and that out there, for a Polynesian, financially, having that opportunity is a big deal, for the family. Because when you're the breadwinner, you're not just doing it for yourself. It's like you're doing it for the family. And if you're single, like even more so, at that time I was single, wasn't married, I didn't have any of that responsibility. So straight to the point, I actually signed, not wanting to go, purely just based on how big the contract was, how much money I got offered. And when I went over, like, it was just for my family. I just wanted to go so I can help them financially. Didn't enjoy it at all, one bit. And so I signed the contract I signed was 4 years. And after the first year, it was not too bad. I wanted to give myself a chance as well to sort of not just write it off, but see if I actually can make something of it, And once I got there, I sort of wanted to tell myself, okay, this is something totally foreign to me. I want to make this out as a challenge for myself, as an athlete, not just a footy player, So when I went across, I tried to sort of get my head around it, change my mindset around how I approached training and approach the game. But after the first year, it just wasn't for me. And so I started talking to my agent at the time. Look, let's make some moves. I need to get out of here because I'm not enjoying it, So after my second year, I ended up leaving. Yeah. And the club were quite good. They weren't going to keep me if I didn't want to be there, just for the sake of it. And they made the transition a lot easier. So it was an experience that I look back. I laugh about it because like everyone, even my own band, they go, I can't believe you play AFL, and I'm like, I'm the same. I can't believe I played it either. For an Islander, there's so much running. That's probably why a lot of them don't play it. But it's the experience off the field was what I was truly thankful for and grateful for, because I think without that, I wouldn't be the person I am today, because what happened off the field to me in terms of, during that time I found my faith, I found God during that period of time. So I'm thankful that I actually lived out that experience, because it was a pivotal moment in my life. Yeah.
Did you feel any pressure at the time? Because I know media was all over you with the transition to AFL. Yeah. How was that feeling?
Yeah, I did feel a bit of pressure at the time, because I was getting paid a big contract. Yeah. And the guys I played against, they'd give it to me. Like you got guys playing on you, and they're just spraying you over like, oh, bro, I can't believe you're getting this much money. And, you've just come into the game, which I understood their frustration in that. As those guys grew up playing the game, but I think from the Giants' point of view, half of the contract was purely just on, we're new franchise in Sydney, and we're trying to come into that area of Sydney, Western Sydney, which is dominated by rugby league, and sort of promote the game. So half of my contract was purely just promotion of AFL, which I understood. But I still, being an athlete and being competitive, I still had that pressure. I felt pressure because I wanted to perform well, whether that was playing AFL or not. It didn't matter. Like, whatever I was trying to do, I was trying to do it to the best of my ability. So I did feel that pressure, and I felt quite low, to be honest, because I came from rugby league where I had success quite early in a short space of time. And then I went to AFL, and it was like I was starting all over again. So I was back down the pecking order. That's how I felt. And so, I felt the pressure, and I felt I had to try and perform. And to be honest, I didn't perform to the way I wanted to, because the game was new. I was trying to learn the game. These young kids were just blitzing it, They were teaching me, they were coaching me how to actually play the game, and they were way younger than me, So it was a humbling experience. I had to let my ego down and sort of come down and be like, hang on, I don't know the game. I have to allow these guys to actually almost coach me and start all over again. It did pierce the ego a bit, but it's what I needed at the time of my life.
Bro, even that, just switching codes and playing AFL and taking the opportunity to go do it, bro, it's a massive achievement, bro. You should be proud of yourself.
No, thanks.
And also, how was the preseason? Bro, I couldn't imagine the Ks that you guys would have done.
Bro, I talk about Melbourne Storm preseason was hard. That was hard overall, but from a running point of view, you can't. AFL was just on another level, those guys run for days, and I have so much respect for those guys, because they're just, they're so fit and athletic, to actually play the game. So, that was, I still remember driving the train, and I'm thinking, man, what am I doing? Like, what am I playing this game for?
You blaming your dad?
I'm driving there to get punished, to just run laps around the field. But I guess it was part of the experience, and I look back now and can have a bit of a laugh about it, but it wasn't funny at the time when I had to do time trials and doing all that. The guys are lapping me around the field,
Oh, mate. Nah, you done well, man. You done well. Now you switch over to rugby union. Now you go to New South Wales, Waratahs, up the Blues, eh? You seen the light, man. You came to the light, man. How was that experience?
That it was good. It was. I played a couple of games in school playing rugby, but other than that, I had no background in playing the game. So when I switched over, I actually wanted to come back to league at the time, but I left it. When I left AFL, I left it so late in the year. I think I might have left November, December. That most teams' rosters now are quite filled, and the salary cap was, there wasn't much money to play with. So I ended up signing with the Waratahs for 1 year. Still in the hope of, play 1 year with the Waratahs and come back to NRL.
Yeah.
Man, when I made the transition over, I would say about 4 months into the change, I loved the game. I fell in love with it, and I was like, man, I really enjoy this. So, from then on, I knew that's probably what I wanted to do, and so I ended up playing 7 years at the Waratahs. And that first year there was enjoyable. Like I was like just a young kid, learning the game, because I didn't know anything about the game. The actual ins and outs of the actual game.
Technical way.
Yeah, it's so technical compared to league.
Yeah.
I'd say league's a lot more physical game, and but straightforward, whereas rugby's a lot more of a technical game where, field positions played,
rucks and moors.
Rucks and moors. The ball can get turned over at any time, so there's a lot to it, So that transition over was a good one, and it felt like home. It felt like going back to league, because playing AFL was so foreign.
Yeah,
I went to rugby feeling like it was home again,
Yeah.
And so I really enjoyed that experience.
Man, because I think your brother played as well. Annie played, and Johnny played as well.
Yeah, they both played. Annie came, might have been 2015 or 16. He come in for like a training trial.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's a bit harder from a forwards point of view because Annie was a front rower at the time. So he's come across from playing league into playing rugby. And, set piece is a big part of rugby with scrumming, line-outs.
Yeah.
There's so much things that go into it. And he's had to learn that straight off the base, like it was quite a tough position to pick up. But, he ended up obviously leaving. And then Johnny, years after that, ended up coming across and he played as a winger centre, anywhere across the back line. But, for an outside back, the transition's a little bit easier because it's not as technical. So, they both had a try in that, and they both enjoyed it. I think it was a different experience from playing league.
Yeah. Wow, it's crazy, man. So like all three, you guys had a crack together. You guys ended up playing together with Southport too.
Yeah.
How was that, man? Uncle Clive, eh?
Oh, man, thanks, Uncle Clive. He was, that was. I think it was one of the things I wanted to tick off. It was, I've played professional for so long, but I haven't played with my brothers, and that was, we used to play growing up in the backyard, but not at a level like that. So to be able to get the opportunity to play together, that was, it was something
special.
Yeah, special, bro. It was a special feeling, and I enjoyed going back to grassroots level of footy. There's no expectation, there was no pressure. It was just going out there to play, and it was a good time. It was a good experience, and I guess it helped my development before I actually went to Japan because it was the year before I moved over to Japan for my first season.
Yeah. Now we're gonna go into obviously you're a big man about Jesus, and now I'm all for it with you, man. And I think there was a period obviously where there was a post that come out. How was that, man? Like, tell us how that went. Because I remember when it first came out, I was like, oh, man. Like, everything was all the pressure, all the stuff that was happening in the media. How'd you go about that?
Yeah, it was obviously a challenging time, not only for myself, but for my wife, Maria, as well, and my family, like everyone that was involved, that were close to us. But, when I actually posted that post on Instagram, I didn't expect that I was going to get terminated from actually putting up a post like that.
Yeah.
And everything unfolded the way it is as we know today. But during that time it was challenging. But I tell this story and a couple of I would say 3 months before that actually happened, I was praying and asking God to really put me in a position of testing, and to really put me in a position to test my faith, because I think to me, because of what God's done for me personally, he was like he's the most important thing to me in my life, and I look back at my journey and what I was doing behind the scenes. He met me at a point where I was at my lowest, and so the relationship between me and Jesus is a real one, and so, he's given me the opportunity to play sport, but I wanted to not only for myself to, as a lip service, to say that my faith is genuine. I actually wanted to get tested and put in a position to really know that it was genuine,
Yeah.
And I prayed that prayer like a couple of months before that actually unfolded. And when it all played out, I remember thinking and sitting back up during that time, it was quite chaotic, but we had media at the front of our apartment at the time when I was living.
Yeah.
Obviously I was in Sydney, and they were just, I couldn't even go out and go up the road, which is 30 seconds, and get a coffee on it, because the paparazzi were just parked at the front, and any time I'd get in the car and drive, to my parents, and my parents live 40 minutes away. The paparazzi would follow me right at, up my back, and it was frustrating, because I was like, man, this is
overboard.
Yeah, it's overboard, bro. Not only that, I was like, man, I'm quite a private person, but to sort of get that attention was quite frustrating. And I think from my point of view, individually, I felt like I was fine, but it was my protection for my wife was where I was getting frustrated because, being a husband, I wanted to protect her, and I felt at the time she wasn't. But, frustrating time. I remember sitting back and thinking, oh man, like just asking God to really give us the strength to be able to get through that. And enough grace to actually approach people and interact with people at that time with like love and respect, because you could easily retaliate and get angry and respond in a way that's not good, But I really had to lean on God during that time to actually get us through during that period.
What was the process like? Like, was your faith? How was your faith during that time? Because I know we get challenged a lot in your faith. How was that? Because I know, looking at it from the outside, looking in, like, man, I remember the time we were praying for you at the time, like as a family. But for you to walk through that, man, like, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, oh man, it was like I said, it wasn't easy. It was tough, and I think that it might sound a bit crazy in that, but throughout that whole storm and everything that was happening, I had a peace. There was a peace about the whole thing. Yeah, and my wife and I would encourage each other, and like I said, our faith become a lot stronger during that time. Yeah. And I see it now. I see God use that situation to really refine us as people and to refine our faith, to really lean in on Him, because I guess there's only so much strength we have as people, and the rest you just can't do it. You got to lean on a higher being, on someone that can take you all the way through. And so that was God was really our strength during that time. And He is now, but particularly during that period, we had to really lean in on Him. But He gave us a peace that, like the Bible talks about, that He gives you a peace that surpasses all understanding. Yeah. It's hard to explain, but it was a calmness that we both felt during that time, that we knew that everything was always going to be all right. And we had to lean in on the Word as well, because you see many times with the characters that God called in the Bible, they all went through suffering, like a lot of them, different times, and God was always faithful and brought them through. Yeah.
Was Maria Christian at the time?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, and she was quite early on as well within her walk and her faith in the Lord. And I've spoken about this a couple of times, and in our potty and a previous potty we're on. But I respect my wife so much, for the strength that she had, and I thank God for providing that strength through her, because she had to play during that time. She had a World Cup year, the year I got terminated, and so all the pressure was on her as well, like during that time. And it was easy for me because, I got my contract torn up. I could stay in the house and not go out in public. I didn't have to go out in public and face anyone, but she had to go out and play and perform under pressure, and that was a hard thing to do, because I know what it's like to perform, let alone all that pressure from the media and from everyone else that was mounted on her, and she had a World Cup year. So we look back now and we talk about it sometimes, and we're just thankful that that God really strengthened our faith during that period, because now what God done through us in that time, we can actually encourage and comfort people that might be going for a similar thing now, because we know that how faithful God was during that period.
Wow, that's awesome, man. It's crazy. It felt like it was only yesterday, but man,
that's how it feels. But it's been 5 years since all that time's happened, and so I look back now, and time just goes quick, But our life, I know what God's done within our lives, and I just think about the what the Scripture says around what we've gone through, and I talk about the story of Joseph, where he got sold into Egypt by his own brothers, and was thrown into prison for, being accused of something that he'd never done, But through that, it was like God allowed all that stuff to happen, but it was part of that his purpose. And there's a passage in that period where Joseph's brothers ended up coming back to Egypt, and Joseph was elevated as like the right hand man to Pharaoh at the time,
Yeah.
During that time, there was a famine, but the brothers come back and they realized it was his brother, and like, saying sorry. And I love what Joseph said to them was like, what you meant for evil, God meant it for good. And so that was, I can look at the situation that we've gone through, whatever we've gone through, they might have meant that for bad and negative things, but God allowed that for good and for his purpose. And the things that we've learned from that is, we wouldn't have learned that if we didn't go through it. So like I said, if we had that time over again, would I change anything? No way.
Yeah.
Like I'd still play it out the same way.
Yeah. Bro, that's mad, bro. How good is that, man? Bro, like, I'm starstruck from all that. But no, that's awesome faith, man. Like, and I swear that's like, it's a big opportunity for others that, they want to know about your story and ways that people are going through those scenarios. So, man, then you get the opportunity to go and play rugby again.
Yeah.
But how was the win, man? Do you know when there's always victory in Jesus.
Yeah.
But when you won that, and then you were able to go out and play footy, man, was that like a breath of fresh air?
Oh man, it was like a huge weight off your shoulders, like just because it was such a big year, like with all the media attention, just like, it was just, the story was just played everywhere. We used to fly a lot to Melbourne because our lawyers were there, and it was on the news, on the plane, it was Israel Folau, blah, blah, blah. And you had people next to us looking at us like that. And, you're just like, oh man, I just want to not see any of that, But it was just that time period. It was just the way it was,
Yeah.
And when we got to the point in December where we settled, it was just, it felt like it was victory for us, We felt like there was a huge weight off our shoulders. And during that time, I was still training hard. Like I was believing that Jesus was he was always going to provide the opportunity. When? I don't know. But I was going to do my part to make sure I was ready when that opportunity came. I was ready to step into it.
Awesome,
so, it was a bit of a different transition because I went from training within a team to then on my own, and I felt like I was just walking in the wilderness, just with God, but I was just doing my own thing and just trusting that God was going to bring the opportunity. So when that time came, we settled. Obviously we were so happy and blessed, and it was finally put to bed. And then not long after that, we had the opportunity to go over to France, and I ended up signing.
That's right, with the Catalan Dragons.
So
bonjour.
I was I actually got the opportunity to go there. I played one season with Catalans, and I enjoyed that experience. I was just thankful that God opened the door up to play again, and went over to probably a good time to go overseas because of all the things we went through, and so it was nice to sort of get away and really just focus in on just playing, enjoying the game again and away from Australia, with all the media attention. So we enjoyed that season over there, and then during that year I actually ended up re-signing an extra year with Catalans, but we ended up coming home during the off season, and Maria's mum had a stroke. So it was it wasn't good. She wasn't in a good state during that time, and so I had to tell the coach that I wasn't coming back because just because of the way my mother-in-law was at that time. I couldn't leave my wife home and go and be in France on my own, and we had to look after my mother-in-law, because she wasn't good. So during that time, I was in a position of I have no contract. I was like, man, what's happening here? So I, again, trusting God and really working hard and training hard. And during that time, Clive ended up stepping in. And I don't know Clive, he was, he was just such a nice guy. He stepped in during that time and really gave me an opportunity to go back and play and have the opportunity to play with my brothers and enjoy footy just for what it is, And he was financially during that time helpful, which I'm really grateful for and blessed to have crossed paths with Clive during that time, and gave me the opportunity to play before I actually ended up signing in Japan. So my agent ended up getting a contract with the team that I'm with now, and just the way that everything unfolded and panned out was just a blessing, because I know that during that time, there was times where you sort of doubt yourself and think, oh man, am I going to get a contract, but God was always, he was always faithful.
It's crazy, man. Like, you've traveled the world, you've done a lot during your time. You've transitioned into so many things. Do you reckon that gave you the confidence? So there was times where, no, I can't come, like with France. You said, oh, no, I can't come. Yeah. Like, do you reckon you've changed your mindset throughout that whole time, knowing that something will pop up?
Yeah, I think it started from 2019 when I got terminated by Rugby Australia. That was really when the time where I believe God really trained me in trusting Him more. Like I would trust in Him, but I wasn't really put in a position to really trust in Him, if you know what I mean. And it wasn't until 2019 when I lost my contract and all my sponsors and everyone walked away, that I really needed to lean in on God for that trust and that faith to know that He was always going to provide. And so when I was put in that position again, when I had to tell Catalans I wasn't coming back, it felt a lot easier, because I had been through something harder previous to that. So when I was in that position, it felt easier, because I knew God He didn't fail me before. So like, I know He's not going to fail me again, and like the Bible says, He'll never leave you or forsake you at all, and so He was, the more you walk through those experiences, your faith just becomes stronger and stronger. You just tend to lean in Him a lot more, because He's done it for you before, and He's going to do it for you again.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Bro, so, man, Japan, how's Japan, bro? Like, I know you look Japanese, but
I'm not really part Japanese, man.
But I don't want to be seeing you play for Japan, man.
No, you won't see that.
How's that now you got kids, man, family, like, you obviously a different perspective of life. How is that, having kids,
Oh man, it's the best thing, eh? It's a blessing, like, you got your kids yourself, and I'm quite competitive as a player, and I still am. But when you've had a day at training or at a game where you've been frustrated about your performance, or you play, the way I think, I play back things in my mind. I'm like, I could have done this better, or I could have, passed that ball. I could have got that ball away, whatever it is. I come home and then I see the kids in that, and I see my wife, and you just put it aside, You're like, oh, okay. Yeah, it just brings you balance, The kids bring you balance, your wife brings you balance, and just realise that there's more to life than just football. And that's the truth, This is what we do, but it's not who you are, as a person. So I think at a young age, my identity was based on that, It was, and when it's based on that, it changes all the time, depending on how well you play, how you're feeling. And so I guess, it comes back to my faith. When I found God, it was a stability, identity that you can put yourself in that would never change, regardless on whether you had a good game or not. You just knew that God valued you at a place not based on your performance, So it was good to know that, And but like I said, having kids and that and coming home, it's just it's fun, They sort of put your mind at rest, and you can come and enjoy them, And my kids are, my wife and kids they're quite active, and we're a real bubbly family, And the kids are well. They do good in adapting to two different lifestyles. We live in, obviously, Brisbane for a couple of months a year, then we go back to Japan. So they do quite well in adapting, but they're really they're really good to be around.
Is there any regrets in your career?
I wouldn't say regrets. I think I always wonder whether what I could have achieved if I stayed in league a lot longer.
Yeah.
Because I left at such a time where I thought I was just coming into my prime, and I was just getting warmed up. That's probably the only question I've asked. But then when I look at what the experience of playing at AFL did for me, both on and off the field, then it was more than worth it, the change. And didn't matter like whether I played through 200-300 games playing NRL. I think what I got from the experience of playing AFL was by far, you can't put a price on it.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was just the best thing that ever happened to me off the field, which is my relationship with Jesus is what I found, and so, but I always have that question in the back of my mind. I wonder what I could have done, if I had played a lot longer, because a lot of people, when I say I only played NRL for 4 years, they think I was playing the game for a lot longer than that.
Feels like you were playing.
Yeah, it does feel like it, but I was only, Melbourne for 2 years and Brisbane for 2 years, and then I left. So, like I said, again, I achieved so much in such a short time what I had like I said, I had that question in the back of my mind, what could I have achieved, if I stayed a lot longer. But other than that, I have no regrets, like none at all, because I'm still blessed that I'm still playing now, to be able to play now, and this is my 17th year playing especially, and I'm 35 now, so it's
still look young, man.
Thanks, mate.
Still look young, mate.
The body definitely doesn't feel young, but a lot of guys don't get to play to this age, and I'll cherish every moment I get and the opportunity I have. I've still got 2 more years with my current club now, so
till the wheels fall off.
Like I always tell you, like I'm going to play till the wheels fall off. So it's a blessing to be able to keep playing.
Well, that's awesome, man. Our pod is obviously about transition. Have you thought about the transition into life after rugby?
Yeah, I have actually. It's been something that it's been sitting in the back of my mind probably in the last year or so, and we've had conversations with yourself and our good friend Mikey. So
the man.
Shout out to Mikey.
Yeah, shout out to Mikey.
I think it's something that as an athlete you need to prepare yourself and not leave it last minute. As you know now, you're on the other side of that. So, and you guys are doing great work in that space and in trying to mentor and help guys that are in that position. That making sure that the transition isn't as hard. That you put things into place to make sure that the transition's a lot easier. And so I've been thinking a lot about that. So my wife and I are putting things into place now, working on different things to make sure that we can go into, when that time comes, we can just make it as smooth as we can, because I think I've seen a lot of guys that I played with and played against during the years where they've just come out of playing professionally and then just gone into having nothing, and that's a very scary place to be in.
100%.
Like you, I know you talk about your experience a lot around that transition, but I think it's important. It's important to actually get educated around what you should do with your money and where that should go, like you guys know.
Yeah. What would you tell your younger self?
Oh man, I think if I were to go back in time and tell my younger self, I would probably say to realize how important the money that I was getting during that time and investing that. I think I was pretty blessed that my parents drove that for me and they invested in property. Like my old man was big in that. He'd put money aside to invest in property from when I started straight away.
Yeah,
so good. At a young age, like when I was 18, I didn't care about that stuff. Like that didn't have any importance to me, because I was, you finish school, you come into playing NRL as a dream of yours. You you go from $0 to your first contract, and so all you want to think about is like spending that money and not thinking long term, you know, because you think you're 18 and you think your career's gonna pan out for so long.
Yeah.
And I'm 35 now. I feel like I started a couple of years ago. You know, time just goes like that. So I'm actually thankful that my parents put things into place to be able to make that growth from a financial point of view and put me in a good position. And now my wife and I, obviously now we're doing that. And my wife is a big driver of that. So I'm thankful to have her. That we're really working together to put those things into place. But I wish I could be I guess educated around how important investing your money and just educating yourself around money. You know, because I think when you talk to a lot of guys that are playing now, like that. Like they wouldn't know much about that because you don't get educated around that. You know, you're a footy player. So I think it's important. I don't know what it is. You're having courses or workshops where players
and understand.
They have to do that. You know, like make it compulsory to learn about that. You know, because the percentage of players playing long term, it's real little. Like you know, it's rare for someone to play 17 years like me. That's just that's not common. Yeah. So, you know, you might pick up an injury that could just put you straight out, and then you know if you weren't careful around what you did with your money, then again, it's like, you know, you've been, you put yourself in a position where you probably don't want to.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we've got an audience watching you, man. What would be a key message that you can share with our audience? You just shared a mad one then.
Yeah, I think
I'm sure you got a few hundred.
Well, I think based on your guys' potty and that, with what you guys do with transition, I would say, from an athlete's point of view, and for anyone, you know, like just put yourself in a position where you can really make that transition a lot easier, which is pretty much what I said earlier. Whether that's in you know what you do with your money, investing, and for those young kids that are coming through, it's so important to do that. Get educated around how you use your money and what you do with it, because a lot of the particularly Polynesians and that when their son cracks it, they think they've made it, you know, and so they start spending money and they send it, which is all fine. I'm all for that, and I want them to do that, but they have to think long term. Yeah, you know, if you invest that money now, everyone can eat for a long period of time. You know, you're not just eating straight away and then there's nothing. You know, so as much as it's an education for the actual player or person, it's more of an education for the actual parents. Yeah, really, 100%. Because if they understand that, then they will allow their sons and daughters to be able to do that and point them in the right direction, where they can actually get the right resources, get around the right people, like what you guys are doing, to be able to invest that money and get educated around the right things, so that long term they can be successful. So, like you said, the transition isn't as scary. Yeah,
100%. Hey, man, we really appreciate your time, bro. Like, I'm grateful to hear your amazing story and your journey. And obviously, Maria, man, I'll take that for her, bro.
she's the rock of the family.
100%, man. I can
say that for sure.
It's so good. But, hey, safe journey to Japan, man. All the best this year, and hopefully we'll see you back here soon.
Thanks, bro. Thanks. I appreciate the time and just for getting me on and having a chat. I've really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Cheers, bro.
Thanks, Lux.